Matt, thank you so much for joining me. I'm delighted to be talking with Matt Forrest Esenwine and his latest book, celebrating the birthday book launch of A Beginner's Guide to Being Human.
Yay.
Fabulous. Yes, yay. And I have to say, this is probably a book that I think our world needs right now. No?
Sad to say, the world is in need of reminders of about how to be kind.
I thought, who needs this the most right now? Who do you want to have this book in their hands right
now? Well, who needs it the most? There's an argument for two different groups. I mean, you could say kids, because they're the ones who are growing up and they may not have the guidance. If the way we adults are acting these days, the kids probably need some guidance, because they're not getting the guidance from a lot of the folks that I come across.
When I was thinking about who I want to read this, like who needs this the most, I thought of this as such a wonderful gift to give to brand new parents.
Yeah.
First timers who yeah, we'll leave that.
Who needs it the most? I can give you a list.
Who thinks that they need it the least, right?
Right.
Love.
Yeah, and we're hoping, that places that children, kind of run into issues, or maybe they have questions, like guidance offices and things like that in schools. We hope it finds a home there, because I think it would be very helpful.
Yeah, what I thought was fascinating is the structure that you did choose, because so many SEL books tend to be, couched in a character, a traditional narrative, character arc of some kind, where you might see an author choose to pick one or two of those kinds of emotions that you lift out in the book. You have said in previous interviews too, and even in our exchange of thoughts about our talk today, that one of the things that was really important to you is the illustration that you wanted of showing forgiveness, showing an adult asking forgiveness. Why was that? Why was that important to you?
Well, just because, so many kids are always being told to apologize, right? They're always being taught to learn how to say you're sorry if you make a mistake, because it's always the kids that make mistakes. Adults never make mistakes. I mean, come on, So, kids recognize BS. They see through it. They see they don't want didacticism, and they don't want BS. And we could show a kid asking for forgiveness, and that would be very trite and contrived and cliched and a million other adjectives. So why not show that this is the kind of thing that we all deal with? These are not just lessons and glossary words for a kid to learn. These are things that grown-ups need to be reminded of as well. And grown-ups, if a grown-up doesn't understand what empathy is, they need to, and they need to practice kindness, and they need to practice self-control. Oh my gosh, adults need to practice self-control.
So, but what I found so interesting is that you did it without ever saying it. I mean, I'm going to just lift this up so that in case the people who see this can see this. This is the page spread that precedes your one mention of.
So there's the little kid who's up at the bat, and he's getting ready to hit. And I don't know if it's his sister or whoever it is trying to get Dad to stop watching, talking on the phone. And Dad's like, yeah, whatever. And Dad's on the phone.
Yes.
And so Dad has to say he's sorry. And I didn't know how the illustrator was going to do it, but in my manuscript, I did mention that there's an adult saying they're sorry or apologizing. And I am. Most of my books are really, really low on the illustrator notes. I try to leave as much to the illustrator as possible, unless it's something that is really absolutely necessary for the understanding of what's going on.
Right.
I just let illustrators have at it. And
that might
have been the only illustration note I had in the book.
So I love that. there's not a lot of books out there that are doing that right now.
Right, and there's a lot of books that touch on these same topics, and so we really wanted to present it differently. I mean, pick up just about any Peter Reynolds or Oliver Jeffers books, and they touch on a lot of these things, and there's plenty of others as well. But they tend to be very quiet, thoughtful kind of books, and that's fine. But we wanted to do something different. We wanted to present it differently and kind of take it a little bit of a different angle. We really kind of kept that narrator. It's almost like a one-on-one kind of thing. Hey, by the way, here's what this is. I'm speaking to one kid, one reader, and I'm trying to keep it intimate, but friendly and conversational as well.
Obviously, we hope readers who read this are going to come away and have a better sense of maybe one or two of the things that you lift up, not let alone the 12 of them. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you, when you sat down to write this, especially knowing the background of I think of it like you were given a writing prompt.
I was.
And you could have taken it anywhere. And so again, this is sort of a craft, speaking of craft, you chose to open it, obviously. I mean, opening first lines are big. Welcome to humanity. You're really going to enjoy it.
Right.
And I'm thinking, okay, who's talking? Is this an alien? Is this is it Earth? I want to know. That to me was the page turn, right? So when we speak about, opening lines and hooks, what was that? Did you set out at the beginning saying, this is how I'm going to do this? Or did that come to you after, thinking about all these different characteristics that you wanted?
I don't recall. I think that probably came pretty quickly because it was a beginner's guide to humanity, a beginner's guide to being human. And, humanity is a pretty cool thing. It's a pretty big thing. It's an all-encompassing kind of thing. So, I think as I was trying to think of how to begin it, I'm a big dinosaur fan. I mean, I've written books about dinosaurs. My son loves dinosaurs. And, the classic Jurassic Park, welcome to Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Which I think I probably subconsciously was kind of thinking that same thing. Welcome to humanity, and you just kind of get into it from there.
So you've mentioned that you used your poetry to move into or to show at least that in this kidlit community that what you're doing when it comes to writing. But a lot of your earliest work has been poems and anthologies, which gives me great heart and hope, because that's kind of where I'm coming from now. Is your process different for writing poetry than it is for sitting down to do a picture book?
I don't know if the process is different, but the lyricism, the word choice, and I've written some prose. I mean, I've written some straight ahead narratives that haven't been published yet, but I've been submitting the manuscripts. But I do have sort of I take everything I write is through a poetic lens, I guess.
To me, that's such a poetic process. Whether you knew you were going to be writing a picture book at that moment or not, it's such a poetic process to
I had no idea what I was going to write about. I didn't know what it was going to be about. I had no idea. But
you didn't sit down and say, I'm going to write a book about children who are being told. That's wonderful.
Yeah. The poetic process is always a process of surprise. And the other thing is always be willing to hold on to your works and repurpose them if you find it necessary. Like a beginner's guide to being human. I had it started off as a manuscript about something completely different. So way back in I think it was 2013, I had written a couple of poems for an anthology by a fellow named Paul Ginesco. And Paul was a wonderful human being, educator, poet, and he passed away a few years ago. And he was putting together a book of how-to poems. It ended up, it was published posthumously. It's called The Proper Way to Meet a Hedgehog and Other How-To Poems. And Paul's anthologies, he was one of those who, you get a poem in one of his anthologies and it's just, it's a huge honor. And so he'd asked me if I had any how-to poems. And so A Beginner's Guide to Stargazing was one of the poems. And it didn't make it into the book, but he passed away before I was able to find out why it didn't make it into the book. So I happened to be talking to a mutual friend of ours in 2018, Rebecca K. Dotlich, who's also a poet. And so I said, Rebecca, here's the poem. I said, you don't happen to have any idea why it wouldn't have made it into his book, do you? And she loved the poem. She said, I don't know. She said, it's a great poem. She said maybe it was a bit too long for his purposes. She said, I don't know. She said, you could try shaving it down, maybe resubmitting it somewhere else, or just flesh it out and make it a picture book. And I kind of liked that idea. There was nothing about it that I really wanted to take out. So I fleshed it out and I turned it into a picture book manuscript, which I started submitting all over the place. And one of the places I submitted it to was Beaming Books, to Naomi Kruger, who liked it, but she said it didn't really quite fit. The subject matter didn't really fit with Beaming Books, but she wondered if I would be interested in writing a book about introducing kids to emotions and feelings, and we could call it A Beginner's Guide to Being Human. And she said you'd have to change the title, obviously, to your other manuscript. And I said that's fine. And there was no guarantee she was going to take the manuscript for Beginner's Guide to Being Human. Like, she asked if I wanted to write it, but there was no guarantee she was going to take it. So fortunately, I wrote a manuscript requested by an editor and they ended up liking it enough that we went forward with it. So I changed the title of Beginner's Guide to Stargazing. I changed that to The Thing to Remember About Stargazing, which is actually it's a better title actually for the manuscript. Because the manuscript was not really A Beginner's Guide to Stargazing. It was an ironic sort of title, but it really wasn't A Beginner's Guide to Stargazing. So I changed it to The Thing to Remember About Stargazing, and I continued pitching it, and Tilbury House picked it up last year. So we're hoping it'll be out fall of 2023, maybe spring of 2024, but we're hoping fall of 2023.
That'll be the next project then.
Right. So it's I actually have a picture book coming out in January.
Yeah. Something else is going to precede it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to tell us the name of that one?
What's that?
Are you going to tell us the name of that one?
That is called Everybody Counts.
Oh, nice.
Everybody Counts. The answer I wanted to give was sadness, but that's a stupid answer. Sadness relating to families. Yes. So I try not to be envious, but seeing all these debut authors who are thanking their agent, like, I don't know who I need to sleep with to get an agent, but oh my gosh.
Matt, that is probably the most honest answer.
Yeah, I try not to be envious, but like really. Myself. I am never the human being, the father, the husband, the son that I strive to be.
Oh, you're hard on yourself.
And that I'm not trying to be dramatic or joking like that. Said seriously, totally it. Yep. Moxie and Doritos. and the love of my family.
Oh,
but especially Moxie and Doritos. Yeah, I would say, if for that answer, I would say my kids. They are a source of constant joy.
Nice. Is there anything else that you want the world to know about Matt Forrest Esenwine?
I don't know if there's anything they need to know about me. If you are a new children's author and you're trying to get into it, I would just tell people that, and I think Stephen King mentioned something like this. I think he said something like talent is a dime a dozen, but it takes hard work to really go anywhere. And that's really true. And I'm butchering his quote, but that's basically what he said. And that really is true, because it takes hard work, patience, persistence, and perseverance more than talent, in my estimation, because you could be the most incredible, talented, gifted author in the entire world. And if you give up after the first rejection, no one will ever know. I liken my children's career to playing soccer. I'm on a couple of different indoor soccer leagues. I'm on a co-ed team and I'm on a men's league. And one of them I play on the field, the other team I'm in goal. And I am not the most talented player on the field. I am never the most talented player on any field. But what I lack in talent, I try to make up for in hustle. Mm-hmm. And if anybody ever remembers any kind of quote of mine, that's it. Because I may not be the most talented player on the field, but I am constantly trying to pass. I'm constantly trying to move the ball. I'm constantly trying to defend, get the ball away from the other team. I'm constantly working. I'm never scoring all the scores. I'm never stopping all the goals, but I'm doing the hard work required to help the team. Mm-hmm. And the same is said for children's writing. Whatever I lack in talent, I try to make up for in hustle. I'm constantly trying to work hard, writing the best, revising, polishing, trying to get critiques, see what you think of this, see what you think of this, get the submissions sent out. Like I said, Once Upon Another Time went through 25 rejections. This book that's coming out next fall from Tilbury House, The Thing to Remember About Stargazing, that went through 25 rejections. 50 rejections for 2 books. So, it's groundwork. It's just, staying in the game and doing the hard work and butt in chair. The big rule, as Jane Yolen says, doing the hard work. And that is really more important than talent. Just hang in there. Don't give up and just keep at it.
Well, Matt Forrest Esenwine, writer of children's picture books, writer of poetry, and hustler.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll look forward to reading and reviewing. I owe you a review next.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much.
That's next. So.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to getting back to, I do a lot of school visits, and so I'm looking forward to sharing that with some of the students and sharing some examples of what empathy and kindness and compassion are.